Welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Bienvenida a todos. Welcome to Physio Stories, our third installment. And I'm here with my host, John from Malta. And if you can't remember, and you should, I am Stacy DeGale from Trinidad and Tobago. And John and I are here to take us on another journey with another global physiotherapist to show not only all that we do, but to show all of who we really are. John?
Hi, Stacy. How are you? So nice to see you a few weeks ago. Stacy and I had the chance to meet again just a few weeks ago after a long period of time not meeting in the flesh, as she likes to say. It was, it was great meeting up again, no?
It
So yeah,
really, really was.
let's just dive into the new story we have, and we're just building up on our stories. But just before, I just wanted to have a quick mention, Stacy, if you don't mind, um, because today we're going to be hearing about an exceptional physiotherapist with an exceptional story about humanitarian services and things like that. But I think it's really appropriate that we just spare a quick thought for our colleagues and friends who are, um, you know, probably experiencing some horrible situations in the conflicted areas at the moment in Ukraine and Russia, but not only
Yes.
there, in any of the conflicted areas. And just spare a thought for all these people and our colleagues who might be finding themselves in these difficult times. And there will be a lot of resonating experiences on this type of management with our guest today. And yeah, so the guest today is a gentleman from Ecuador, Quito. His name is Daniel. I had the pleasure of meeting Daniel the first time in 2019, when Daniel was awarded a humanitarian service award by World Physiotherapy, actually. And I was sitting down at table, and there was this gentleman, and he just, I was in awe about the great work that he has been doing. So
Yes.
I'd like to welcome to our show Daniel Wappenstein from Ecuador, Quito. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Yes. Hello. Hello. I'm all right.
Hi, Daniel.
Thank
How
you.
are you
Thank you
doing?
very much.
Welcome, Daniel. As
Very
John
well.
John John reminded us that the first time we met was in Geneva at a gala dinner of World Physiotherapy in 2019. And the thing is, that was the first time we met with you in the flesh, but we heard about you and all the work that you've done. So thank you so much for agreeing to be one of our guests on this Physio Stories journey that we're taking around the world. And we're
So,
gonna and I'm handing over back to John, particularly because I don't want to, guy to guy. I'm gonna let John start the story first, and we will continue as we go along. Thanks again, Daniel, for being here.
so
Thank you.
Daniel, yeah, just our physio stories are very human stories. We want to know more about our guests and what their backgrounds are. So take us a bit through your background, Quito and Ecuador, and just share with us some of the nice experiences from your country and what you can share with us, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, Stacy. Uh, Hello to all who are connected now. Um, yes, I have like two countries now where I have a big story. One is Ecuador, where I was born and where I live now, and the other one is Argentina, where I studied physiotherapy and I lived for almost 20 years there. So I have
Oh,
my divided heart in both countries. Um, and well, here we always are fighting like Latin Americans, with some things that are better, some others that are not so good. We have many of the Latin way of being, um, that it's very good in sometimes and not so good in others. And we are like sensible of thinking not only physiotherapy but life and the world from diverse optics and working on that always. Huh?
You
Daniel,
mentioned something
go
about
ahead.
having your heart in two places, Ecuador and Argentina. And I'm
Yeah.
going to be politically incorrect here. Who in football, in soccer, who are you supporting?
Always Ecuador. Huh?
Good answer. Good answer.
Stacy, I know that you're actually interested in something else related to Daniel and something about his. Yeah, would you like to?
And again, I definitely, and the irony is that he said, he studied in Argentina and lived there for 20 years, but he's Ecuadorian, born back in Ecuador. But I've always wondered about your surname, Daniel, because Wappenstein or Wappenstein, depending on where you where you come from, is not a Spanish name. So where else have you journeyed from? What is your heritage?
Well, Wappenstein, well pronounced, is it's like in the central of Europe region. All my grandparents from both sides, mother and father, they were Europeans. They were Jewish, and they had to go in the Second World War. And well, they get to be coincidentally here in Ecuador. And my mother, she was born here in Ecuador, and my father, he was born in Spain, but he came when he was just a kid. And so that's like the origin of both of my sides of my names.
Just simply amazing. A true reflection of what Physio Stories is really like, and to further emphasize the number of similarities we actually have, despite where we live and despite the language. And physiotherapy, in and of itself, transcends all those boundaries. So it's a beautiful story. Beautiful story. And Daniel, you've always, since I've known you, been very proud of being a father outside of being a physiotherapist. You're always very proud of your children. Tell us about being a dad and being a physiotherapist and the dynamics in your family, and if anybody is following in your footsteps as with regards to being a therapist.
Um, well, I hope my children, they can follow my footsteps, not necessarily being physiotherapist, no, that from any probably from any choice that they take. No, my only daughter, I have 5 children. My only daughter, she began to study physiotherapy, but she didn't like it. So she studied for cook, and she's an excellent cook. You know, I think she got a very good choice alternative. No, she loved to cook too, and well, I have always cooked at home, so she saw more about that physiotherapy. Yeah?
And you
John,
like
we
to
know
eat
where
as
we're
well?
going for the next
Yeah.
holiday.
Well, I like to eat, so that's fine for me. I'm good with a good cook, yeah, good chef, good food. Why not? Why not? But
I
we
like
know
very
that
much
also
food.
Stacy is also a lovely cook and chef, and she loves all her. Now, Stacy's always buying all these things when we're around, things related to cooking and spices and all that, getting in trouble with the immigration officers
Oh
as
my
well.
God, yes. Don't let me start.
Daniel, Daniel, we know that you are a founding member and also an excellent contributor towards this humanitarian services with respect to disaster-stricken areas, and you have actually brought together groups of people on multiple occasions to support people who are in dire needs and distress. What is this story? I believe it's called the Brigada or something like that.
Well, I think the word brigada and the brigadas we have made here in Ecuador and in other places in the world, it's a consequence. It's not just a coincidence
Mm.
of not higher, um, especially how do you say, natural catastrophes. Um, Really, I always had like a social view of how to think physiotherapy, um, when when all the line of primary attention came on the world, like in the 80s. No, I just wanted to know how can a physiotherapy can be involved in prevention, in education for health, and in action in zones that sometimes, in this case, we go to the other side, are um, uh, uh, affected by a natural event or a war or something like that. So I was always like with the social meaning of being a health agent. That's like the idea of. I heard a lot of my teachers saying that we have to think in the social part, but it was like the last part of each book, and it was like a lot of techniques, and we have to think the person as a person, like the final part
Yes.
of every study. So I try to give a sense to that, and to be like and to give a coherence of what I thought it was to be a part of the health service, in this case from the physiotherapy, and to see what we can do about it.
So
Yes.
when did you actually start? When was the first brigade that you put together? Which year was that?
Well, here in Ecuador, we had an earthquake in a zone of the coast. Ecuador is a small country. It has like the Andes, so we have very big mountains, the coast, and we have a Amazon, part of the Amazon jungle too. So we have, it's a very small country, but with a lot of different geographic geographic ways forms. No, when it happened here, the earthquake, the 16th of April of 216. I thought I was like working before to be prepared for some to help in something like this. It was a coincidence, probably not so coincident, but in that moment, in that time, WCPT made that work of the role of physical therapy in disaster management. I received that 1 week before the earthquake,
Wow.
but I was working on that, not on specifically on that, but I have worked on that a lot of time. Um, and well, I had a chance here in Ecuador to meet when it was the earthquake. A person that is physiotherapist and works a lot with in disaster zone, and worked on that document, that it's Peter Skelton. No, he
Right.
called me. He was here in Ecuador because he came because of the earthquake. No, and he called me, and in this office where I'm here this moment, where we organize all the brigadas. No, I was talking with Pete. No, and I told him, sorry, that I have read what he wrote, but I thought I was like prepared before the earthquake to work on this. No, I worked for it. No, not
Yes.
intentionally, but I liked always that to understand what can physiotherapists do in situations, not only
Yes.
natural situations, but wars and other spaces that sometimes we were not, or we are not still, that like present in those spaces. No? And well, that's how the earthquake got to
Yes.
me.
Got
No,
you started.
and and I wrote a phrase in that moment, is that it was, what is that move us, the physiotherapist, when the earth moves. No, that's what I thought. No,
Can you say
thinking.
that again, Daniel, for everybody who's listening to hear? Can you
Yes.
say that quote again? And I'm going to use it. I'm going to borrow it.
Yes. What does moves us, the physiotherapist,
Yes.
when the earth moves?
Wow.
No?
And how does that sound in Spanish, Daniel? Say it in Spanish?
¿Qué nos mueve a los fisioterapistas cuando la tierra se mueve?
It sounds even better in Spanish, doesn't it?
I agree. I agree.
and 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 it again, it shows the heart of why you've done this, and that physios have such a great role in disaster, in war, and it's sad that what our world is showing in the Ukraine, in certain parts of Africa, all over every corner of the globe, where there's some level of disaster, and there is a role for us, and we have to move as the world moves, as the earth moves. We have a part to play. And even in that, Daniel, there's a romantic concept. It a lot of people look at the romantic side to humanitarian service. They think of traveling to a certain country. They think of getting their names down as saying that they helped. But humanitarian service is far from being romantic. And you're in that office, and we want you to give us a little tour of, for us to get a glimpse into what goes behind a brigada. So if you can give us a tour of your office.
Well, well, I think I think I am romantic in a lot of things, no, but sometimes it's not so easy to sustain romanticism too. It's work, no, it's a lot of work. I haven't lose at all my romantic part on the thinking of the brigadas here in Ecuador, on what we did in 2017 in Colombia because of avalancha, and we went there to make a brigada binational with Colombian colleagues, or in Guatemala when it was the eruption of the Volcán de Fuego, and we made a brigada there too with colleagues there in Guatemala. So yes, it. I think it's both, no. And I think the romanticism in the things that we have, the physiotherapist or any other professional have, the particular thing that we can afford in some places. It's from each of us, no, and not all of us. We have to do like humanitarian support. Others work like in I don't know, in intensive therapy, and I think it has the same sense, no, of work. No, it's just what passions us has to be like promoted and moved by us too. So I think it's in
Daniel,
in every space that we take. Uh,
yeah. Daniel, I have a question for you, because for many of us sitting behind the screen, and we're the privileged people who don't have not experienced maybe some form of disasters and stuff like that. What would you come across? What do you meet when you go to these areas? Is there something you can explain to us or describe what you find when you go to these when you went to Guatemala, Colombia, or in Ecuador?
Um, yeah, well, it's a probably a coincidence in these three countries that that we are in ubicated economically, politically, or anything in the third world. You know? So we have to rethink that division of the worlds, that division of a first, a second, or a third world, or a fourth
Yeah.
world. I think we have to rethink even the definitions that generally uh, are sustained by differences of historic power, politically and
Yeah.
economically. So I think it's I really always think that we have, like, as physiotherapists, we have to be politics and economics and other things that are across the situations that happen in some places and not in other places. No?
Hmm.
I work a little bit even in that paper of Peter Skilton. We can see that the intensity of the earthquake in Japan and in IT was the same, and in one place there were 100 persons died, and the other 100,000, hundred
Thousands.
thousand mil, cien mil persons died,
Yes.
and and so we have to understand that things happen in common in a lot of places, like earthquakes, for example. But it's not the same if it happens in Japan or it happens in IT. Um,
Yes.
so this is the world in which we live, and we have to understand that and try to work on it, like from all the places and all together, not to be so asymmetric.
Uh, 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 Daniel, John, I'm so excited. We have a question. I think we really need to get this question from one of our viewers. Louisa has asked two questions, and I think, again, powerful in and of itself. The first question she's asked Daniel: what and how has allowed you to reconfigure your role as a father as you execute your role as a humanitarian physiotherapist? That's her first question. So I guess she's asking basically how you're juggling everything, and how you're able to balance life with this humanitarian part of you.
Hmm. Um, Really, this is life. No, what I do with the brigadas, it's like a consequence of my thinking and the thinking that had Jimena, my wife. She died many years ago in a car accident,
Oh,
and that have my children too. Most of them, almost all of my five children, no, have been have been in the brigadas too. They have gone with me to the brigadas, and it's part like of a consequence too of things that we talk on the table when we are eating. Huh? We talk about what happens on the world, on the politics, on the asymmetric world in which we live, and trying to understand that, and each one to work from its place on how can that be translated to the day to day.
And we have one other question from, I'm really excited. I'm taking liberties for us to go over touch. Um, Another question from Louisa, and I'm showing it on the screen. And I think she's asking about your commitment to the theoretical and practical place of rehabilitation as a South American. Are you more committed because of your history as being from South America? What has fueled you?
Um, I thought that that was that was much stronger before, no? Uh, uh, Before I got to know a lot of people in the world that have this commitment to work on humanitarian work in all the world. No? Um, I really think there is a I don't know. I think there is a theoretical way of in all the world that just to understand that any health service professional uh, has to work with a responsibility and a commitment that it's like common, no? But at the time of the work, I see that doesn't happen here in Ecuador. It doesn't happen in Colombia, in Argentina, or in Europe or United States. No, I think we say a lot of things, but not always. It's hard to get that like level to try to be coherent between what we say and what we do, no? And that is a personal work that each of us have to do, and it's independent of any profession that we have, you know?
I think this is a perfect lead into something that you yourself claim about your philosophical ideas, no, Daniel? And I'm just quoting you in a communication we had recently, where your philosophical idea would be to promote this coherence. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, and you have this diktat that almost all say the same thing. However, we do not do what we say. It's quite interesting, this philosophical approach. What is it exactly? How can you expand on that a bit more?
I think it's quite easy, no?
Mm.
Uh, if all the persons that probably we are here in this moment together, no, try to understand if we are absolutely, that includes me, by the way, if we are absolutely coherent between what we say and what we do, I think the world will be very different, no? But there's a lot of situations, no, in this world and in this world and every time more of consuming and having more things and living like to be like normal. If you have a lot of things and you have 3 cars and 4 houses and I don't know, no, accumulation. And just to see around the street, no, that there is a lot of people that are thinking if they will eat or if they won't eat today, no? So it's not easy for any one of us, I think, to work on how we'll be, well, how we'll really think and how we will really do a different world. So it's a
I,
conflict.
I, I I really appreciate your openness and your
Yes,
honesty and you sharing your ideas with us, Daniel. And it's so clear and transparent to me why somebody like you would be involved in
yes,
such a humanitarian aspect, and also that you are a an example for many people to follow. And I really wish that your example can be picked up on by so many people to do so much good. Because I do know, Daniel, that you do a lot of good. And I think that in essence, um, that is what I see. I see a good person doing a lot of good things. And in his very humble way, admitting also that he is not perfect. So, I mean, such an example to me and to, I'm sure, many people. Stacey,
Well,
over to you.
well, I know, Daniel, that you had something you wanted to show the world more about your work. And I think, John, we could give a bit of latitude for this, for people
For sure.
to be moved. Just as how the world is moving, we have to move with it as health
Hmm.
professionals and be, as Daniel always says, health agents. So, Daniel, I have your screen up. So it's all over to you. And as you get your presentation ready, again, guys, this is Daniel Wappenstein from Ecuador via Argentina, Spain, uh, all of Europe. And he's here with us on our third episode of Physio Stories. He's a tremendous physiotherapist, a lecturer, humanitarian, and he's here to share with us some of his work. And I'm handing over now to Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Can you hear me okay there?
Yes.
We're hearing
Okay,
you clearly.
okay. Okay, I'll just go fast in this presentation just to show a little bit of the work we have done in here in Ecuador and other places in the world. Well, here is like the process, how we make a call for the brigades. We make an international call, and we get a subscription for the from the volunteers. Huh? Um, then we send to each of the places where we go, where we will go give attention. We have contacts now in all the places, and we send the information so they can put for the people to go to get attention. This is a very important document that we have. That it's a manual of logistics procedures, and it's made by Juan Carlos Alviar. He is the logistic in charge of the brigades. Here is all the information, what will be the trip from here, from Quito to the zones where we will work, each one of the days, where are all the points of attention that we have in the zone, the places where we'll go every day. Generally, we go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and what are we going to do in each place. No, here is like when we call for another brigade, when it will be. Um, the well, here the cars that are with always with the stickers, and when we generally require like 5 cars for 30 persons. Sometimes we have to rent the cars or put the cars of ourselves. Um, how we identified ourselves, no, with the shirts and the cars that are identified. Um, well, the camping, all first all the communication supplies, radios, batteries, records, first aid kits. What this moment I'm doing here in this office for the next brigade, the camping zone. Um, all the information we take for the information record that we take for each patient. This was written. Now we have all this information on our cell phone, so that works most fast. Here's a very big brigade that we made with a lot of colleagues that came from other countries. We always take a picture after the brigade. Now here's another group of another brigade. And well, some of we had here it says 632. We are now more than 1,000 volunteers that have worked. Who are the beneficiaries? And early born children, teens, adults, elderly persons with disabilities, and pregnant women. We have done like near 2,600 now. They're direct attentions. That's the map of Ecuador. We have the Pacific Ocean on one side. On the other side, it will be the Amazonic zone, and where it's marked is where it was the earthquake zone. This is interesting in some places where we give attention. We can do it from under a tree to how do you say, a sanitary place of attention of first level. So we do it anywhere. We do home therapy too to persons with disabilities that can go to the places where we give attention, and we have detected them and we go to those places. Well, here's the example when in a school that we work. This was under a tent of UNICEF when it was after the earthquake. Here's a center of the Ministry of Public Health of Ecuador. This is a library, that foundation in Don Juan, very nice place where when we give attention. Here we can see a waiting room in Pedernales. This was when it was after the earthquake here in Ecuador, a refugee. A school in Tosagua. So this is interesting that we learn a lot with Juan Carlos how to measure a river to see if we could go to the other side with the cars. And for example,
Wow.
this day we couldn't go, so I learned this because if I was in that part of the brigade, probably I had a picture of the car inside the water. Huh? But this is all the work that Juan Carlos does with us because he is expert on this part. No? This day we could go. No? Here's after a day of work in Pedernales. This was the epicenter of the earthquake. Here's some situations that we found on the road, and this is how I say places where we go through, and they say no, there's a person with this, and we find this type of situations, but that sometimes don't have any continuous treatment. And then we see when we found this, we go back to those places. No? The special brigades, this was the brigade in Mocoa in Colombia after the avalancha. It was really, really very hard to be there. There's a lot of Colombian colleagues that I hope they're here or they can hear. And we made a binational brigade there in Colombia. Well, here it was all the zone where it came the avalancha. Here working with the Colombian colleagues. Then in Guatemala, after the eruption of the Volcán de Fuego, we, for the first time in the brigade, one of the objectives that we had, that it was the respiratory physiotherapy, was one of the most important after that situation of the volcano in Guatemala. No? Here are some pictures, and then the refugees where we work. Other places that we have been here in Ecuador with disability, work with children, with disability, all the complementary activities with the persons that make other things, in the brigades, that we have artists and a lot of persons from other specialities and professions that help us. Well, here's Juana, that she makes acupuncture. Jasmine, I had like a very nice story with this girl of 16 years that she was very nice, and she really, something happened to her during the earthquake, and she had a neurological problem, and a few months she died. Psychology, that psychologists that work with us too. Well, and some situations I wanted to find a word in Spanish that I didn't find one word in English. You have a lot of words that one word can do a lot of definitions. No, and disregarded was a very important word for this presentation. No, and now I ended this presentation with something that my sister Susana said. And how does a world that builds its history from the voices of everyone sound? And it's very interesting to understand there are no vulnerable people or groups. People are and social groups are vulnerable because someone has made them vulnerable, because someone has the power to make them vulnerable. So I think this is important too, because it's not a coincidence, but it's a co-responsibility of what and how we have to think from our profession and from our our view. This no.
Daniel,
Well,
this has been so powerful
sorry,
in so many
very
ways. No, your story has been powerful in so many ways, and we want to say a very special thank you for taking this time to share all about who you are. And it's beyond physiotherapy. It's about being a citizen of the world. And Danny Cardenas, I think you know Danny from Ecuador. And I'm going to put up his comment on the screen. And I think he surmises what we think. And he says, Daniel, thank you for teaching us to show the beauty of this worthy profession that puts itself at the service of others. And greetings to all from Ecuador. So I think Danny really surmised it well. And thank you again so much for being with us. Thank you for all our viewers and for all the questions, John. I think we may have to have Daniel on the show again, because we actually have a lot of questions still. Um, and it's simply amazing the selfless work that one of the viewers has said that you do. She's not a physiotherapist, she's a friend of mine, she's a mother of an autistic child who herself has shown through her son service to him and others. And so she understands selflessness, and she says that you are doing selfless work. So thank you, Daniel. John.
Yes, Daniel, I extend my thanks to you as well, and I repeat that you're an inspiration to many of us in many ways. And thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your services to humanity, really and truly. And just to close on this aspect, and yeah, we need to close at some point. We can keep on going on forever, really and truly. But should there be any more questions or comments, so you want to ask Daniel any questions, you can always look at the Facebook page on Physio Stories and leave your comments there, and we will reach out to anybody who wants to speak to Daniel. Maybe, Daniel, you have some more information, for example, about how to join your brigade, or maybe issues related on how you bring the volunteers together. So, Daniel, on my behalf, thank you very, very much for joining us today. And I really look forward to meeting you, hopefully in the flesh, very soon again, same time.
Thank you, Daniel. Gracias. And don't leave, Daniel. You hold on a bit. Let's just
Gracias.
talk to our viewing audience for a minute. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks
Daniel.
everybody for hanging on, for all who stayed on for this entire show. Please feel free to share this interview and the others that have gone before. And on behalf of John and myself, thank you so much for being part of Physio Stories, part of who we are, to show the heart of us as professionals and as human beings, and as Daniel said, as agents of change. So thank you all so much. And see you very soon in a couple of weeks for our next episode.
Thank you all. Bye, Stacy.
Bye.